tell you one thing more. Hi, my name is L. King. I'm fucking hammered. We're celebrating Dolly's birthday.
Not every country star maintains an entirely rosy relationship with the Opry throughout their whole career. Over the decades, multiple performers have been asked to leave the stage for one reason or another, either for violating the venue's unspoken code of conduct or for failing to meet the official expectations for membership. From Johnny Cash to Hank Williams, the Grand Ole Opry has been famous not just for its ability to capture the heart of country music in the United States, but also for its band of famous country stars. Join us today as we review 15 country singers who were blacklisted from the industry. Number 1, L. King.
Easier, you kind of just float on the water. That's my style, yeah.
An awkward act happened during an Opry-mounted tribute show at Nashville's Ryman Auditorium called Opry Goes Dolly, a celebration of Dolly Parton's 78th birthday in 2024. Performer Elle King caused quite a stir on social media when she stepped on stage visibly drunk, told the audience she was F-word hammered, entered into lightly combative banter with concertgoers, and forgot the words to Parton's "Marry Me." The venue apologized to those offended by King's language, but on social media, many fans of the Opry insisted that an apology should come from King herself. They also said that her behavior warranted a ban from the Grand Ole Opry stage. Parton, however, seemed on the forgiving side as opposed to the Grande Ole Opry. Parton said in an interview with Extra, Elle is really a great artist. She's a great girl, and she's been going through a lot of hard things lately, and she just had a little too much to drink. So let's just forgive that and forget it and move on, because she felt worse than anybody ever could. There have been several instances of artist bans at the Opry over the years, but does King's behavior warrant that extreme step? Number 2, Dierks Bentley. Though Dierks Bentley was eventually welcomed into the Grand Ole Opry as a member in 2005, he was banned from the venue long before he even performed inside. He worked as a researcher at a local television station, the Nashville Network, which was located next to the Opryland grounds. Bentley, drawn to the music next door, found a way to sneak backstage and hang out with the Opry performers on the weekends. When the Opry general manager, Pete Fisher, caught Bentley lurking about too often, according to the Opry, they sent him a letter informing him that his access to the venue had been limited. After releasing his 2003 self-titled debut with his first #1 hit, What Was I Thinkin'?, Bentley made his Grand Ole Opry debut that same year and was introduced by Ricky Skaggs. However, it wasn't until October 1st, in 2005, that he was finally inducted as a member and became the third youngest member after Josh Turner and Carrie Underwood. Number 3, Johnny Cash.
My wild desire.
One of the most shocking moments in Opry history was the night in 1965 when an intoxicated Johnny Cash smashed out all the lights on the front of the stage during his performance. On the 7th of July 1956, Johnny Cash made his Grand Ole Opry debut, performing I Walk the Line, Get Rhythm, and So Doggone Lonesome. Later moving to California, signing to Columbia, and releasing more hits like Ring of Fire, Cash would frequently return to perform at the Opry. However, his life had become more tumultuous over the next few years around addiction and his first marriage dissolving. During a performance, Cash went on a rampage and used the mic stand to bash in all the stage lights he could. In a statement, he said, "I don't know how bad they wanted me in the first place, but the nights I broke all the lights on the stage with the microphone stand, they said they couldn't use me anymore," he recounted later on. "So I left and used that as an excuse to really get wild and wound up in the hospital." Despite that one black mark on his record, he had a lot of career and life high points performing at the Opry too. In fact, it was during his 1956 debut that he found love in a woman named June Carter. This woman would eventually become his wife. Cash returned to the Opry stage in 1968. Cash's membership was reinstated, and he remained an Opry member throughout the rest of his life. He died on September 12, 2003 at the age of 71, just 5 months after June. His wife passed away. Number 4. Jerry Lee Lewis. Jerry had country music roots and numerous releases within the genre like She Even Woke Me Up to Say Goodbye, To Make Love Sweeter for You, What Made Milwaukee Famous, Has Made a Loser Out of Me, End of the Road, and Another Place, Another Time. Yet, Jerry Lee Lewis, who was finally inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2022, just weeks before his death, never felt accepted by the Nashville community. When he was asked to perform at the Opry on the 20th of January 1973, he decided to break the house rules they gave him: no cursing and no playing rock songs. Jerry Lee Lewis's 1973 Grand Ole Opry debut broke several rules, but perhaps most critically, he dropped an F-bomb from the stage. This was a very big deal because he ended up losing his membership as a result. Fans and country artists consider the Grande Ole Opry to be sacred to country music, so Jerry Lee Lewis's actions caused a lot of outrage. And to make matters worse, the show was broadcast as a live radio show, bound by the constraints of the FCC. According to Rolling Stone, the killer also offended by refusing to limit himself to country songs on the Opry stage. He mostly played his rock hits, like Great Balls of Fire and Whole Lotta Shakin' Going On, which was a blasphemy to the Grande Ole Opry stage, the home of all things country. He also blew through his time constraints, playing a 4th-minute set with no regard for commercial breaks. Lewis never became an Opry member and was banned from performing there after his notorious appearance, though he did end up playing there again in the early 1980s. Jerry Lee Lewis was known for his status as a pioneer of rock and roll, but he's also known for his shocking marriage history, which includes 2 wives who died under suspicious circumstances. But one of the most jaw-dropping marriage-related headlines Lewis ever produced was his marriage to his 3rd wife, Myra Gale Brown, who was his first cousin once removed. At the time of their marriage, she was just 13 years old, while Lewis was 22. Sometimes, Lewis attempted to lessen the age gap by telling the media she was 15, not 13, but the scandal still rocked headlines, and his musical career took a massive blow. His tour in Britain was canceled after 3 shows amid public outrage, and when he returned home to the States, he learned he'd been blacklisted there as well. Number 5. Kitty Wells. Kitty Wells' first hit was banned from NBC Radio and the Grand Ole Opry before it ever became a hit. Her song, It Wasn't God Who Made Honky Tonk Angels, was in response to a song by Hank Williams about cheating women. In 1952, Hank Thompson had a hit with a song called The Wild Side of Life, which condemned women for going out to bars, drinking, and cheating. It was full of bitter rebukes to these honky tonk angels and was number 1 for 15 weeks. Kitty's response song, however, laid the blame on the men and offered a response from a woman's point of view. This response became the voice for married women across America who were tired of watching their husbands act as if they were still single and neglect their responsibilities while they tended to the kids at home. It spoke the truth from the woman's point of view, denouncing the sexist and cruel views of some men while still admitting that the woman was wrong for every relationship gone sour. The song became the first number 1 country record by a female solo singer, and it outsold its inspiration. Perhaps unsurprisingly, due to the culture at the time, it was banned by some radio stations and the Opry. Despite launching a new movement of female country singers, Wells would later tell National Public Radio that she was no feminist. Number 6. Skeeter Davis. Kentucky native Skeeter Davis first broke out as part of the Davis Sisters in the late 1940s. She later released their country hit, I Forgot More Than You'll Ever Know, which spent 8 weeks at the top of the country charts in 1953. The 2 women went on to perform with people like Bob Dylan, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Wanda Jackson. After the death of her singing partner, Betty Jack Davis, in a car accident in 1953, the singer decided to retire from music and start a family. She returned to music as a solo artist in 1958 and became a member of the Opry in 1959. What trouble did Skeeter Davis cause to get booted off the Grand Ole Opry stage? She spoke her mind on a sensitive topic. In 1973, during a performance on the Opry, Davis criticized Nashville police for arresting 15 street preachers who were approaching people at a local mall. This is something that I should share, said Davis to the Opry audience before performing Amazing Grace. I didn't ask our manager, but they've arrested 15 people just for telling people that Jesus loves them. And that burdened my heart, so I thought I would sing you all this song. After sharing her opinion of the local Nashville police, Davis's membership was suspended and she was banned from performing at the Opry. I felt so unloved when I got kicked off the Opry, Davis later said, according to CMT. I'm childlike in many ways. It seems to me I've been a rebel all my life too. The ban didn't last though, and Davis was reinstated at the Opry a year later. In 1974, the Opry welcomed Davis back, and she continued to perform there until her very last performance in 2002. Skeeter Davis remained an Opry member until she died in 2004 at the age of 72. Number 7. Hank Williams. Hank Williams may be one of the most revered country performers of all time, but he was kicked out of the Grand Ole Opry, and he's never been reinstated. After releasing a long string of country hits in the 1940s from Hey Good Lookin', I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry, I Saw the Light, Move It On Over, and Your Cheatin' Heart, Hank Williams finally made his Grand Ole Opry debut and became a member in 1949. During his Opry debut, Williams received 6 encores and went on tour with his band, the Drifting Cowboys. Over the years, Williams developed a drinking problem. This got him fired from the radio station where he had started out after he showed up inebriated on more than one occasion. His time with the Opry would have a similar fate. His alcoholism became noticeable and progressed over the years. In 1952, the Opry dismissed Williams, just 3 years after he became a member. This was for missing several scheduled shows with no explanation. The Opry planned to temporarily ban him from their stage as a warning to get his act together, but they never got the chance. He died at age 29 on New Year's Day, 1953. Over the years, fans have attempted to posthumously induct Williams as a member of the Grand Ole Opry. There's even an official Reinstate Hank campaign, but the vice president and other executives of the Grand Ole Opry shut the idea down for one simple reason: dead people aren't Opry members. Hank Williams will always be a treasured past member of the Grand Ole Opry. Vice president and executive producer of the Opry, Dan Rogers, told Rolling Stone Country in 2020. He said, "The Grand Ole Opry was made of living, breathing artists who can contribute to the show and to whom the Opry can give back." Number 8, The Chicks. Most famously, the all-women country music trio, The Chicks, then known as the Dixie Chicks, was outrightly banned from all country radio and the industry for years. This was after Natalie Maines, the lead singer, publicly stated at a concert that she was ashamed that the President of the United States is from Texas. This incident took place during a 2003 concert in London. Natalie Maines made this comment in an attempt to express frustration over the government's involvement in the war in Iraq. While she felt she was just expressing herself, the comment faced intense backlash. The trio found themselves the subject of death threats, watched people steamroll their albums, and went from the top of the country music pile to having their songs banned from the radio. In a new interview, Maines, who was just 28 years old at the time, says the fallout from that night left her wanting to bury her head in the sand. She describes the time as a mind-racking moment, explaining that the reactions to her words left her feeling unsafe at home. At some point, she had to move because of the threats she had received, which left her feeling anxious and unstable. The Chicks released one more album in 2006, the Grammy-winning Taking the Long Way, before mostly disappearing from the spotlight for about a decade. They began touring again, first in Europe and Canada, and then in the United States in 2010. Number 9, Loretta Lynn. Loretta Lynn is another country artist who has had more songs banned from the radio than every other female country artist combined in the 20th century. At the height of her popularity, some of Lynn's songs were banned from radio airplay, including Rated X, about the double standards divorced women face, Wings Upon Your Horns, about the loss of teenage virginity, and The Pill, with lyrics by T.D. Bayless, about a wife and mother becoming liberated by the birth control pill. The Pill, however, tops the list of her most controversial songs. It was known as Loretta Lynn's most controversial single of all time. Released in 1975, the tune finds Lynn singing to her husband about going on birth control to prevent future pregnancies. The song is peppered with humorous lyrics about the subject, but some country music listeners didn't take too kindly to the content. A lot of them found the lyrics disturbing and disrespectful. The Pill was banned by many radio stations at the time, but that didn't stop it from becoming a hit. It peaked at number 5 on the US charts. Also, she was the first woman in the country to write her songs, spanning a catalog of 50 albums and 6 decades. About her songs being banned, she said, "It's always been about truth. And if that means radio wants to ban it, well, that's their problem. Most of my records they banned became number 1 anyway." Her song Dear Uncle Sam, released in 1966 during the Vietnam War, describes a wife's anguish at the loss of a husband to war. It was included in live performances during the Iraq War. Number 10, Morgan Wallen. Country star. Morgan Wallen has been suspended indefinitely from his label and has seen his music pulled by radio stations and streaming services after a video surfaced of him shouting a racial slur. He was seen drunk and called out the N-word to a neighbor. His one drunken mistake has led to a string of losses in his career. His record label, Big Loud Records, issued a statement saying that Wallen's contract has been suspended indefinitely. Republic Records, which he is co-signed to, also agreed with Big Loud's decision and said, "Such behavior will not be tolerated." The video, which showed Wallen outside a home in Nashville, Tennessee, yelling profanities and a racial slur, has been trending over social media. And at a time when the Black Lives Matter remains fresh in the back of our minds, it seems that Wallen has fallen from grace. In light of Morgan Wallen's recent actions involving the use of a racial slur, we have made the decision to remove his music and content from our stations, effective immediately, according to a statement from iHeartMedia, which has hundreds of radio stations across the country. The Academy of Country Music also took measures to show its disapproval of Wallen's actions. They released a statement informing the public that they would halt Wallen's eligibility for this year's show and would also be reviewing the eligibility and submission process. The Academy does not condone or support intolerance or behavior that does not align with our commitment and dedication to diversity and inclusion, the ACM statement said. As the days rolled by, the hits just kept coming. Streaming apps like Spotify and Apple have removed his songs from their most popular country music playlists, where normally Wallen had multiple songs from his new album. SiriusXM and Pandora also removed his music from their playlists, according to a spokesman for SiriusXM. The music television channel CMT also decided to remove his appearances from all its platforms. In October 2021, Saturday Night Live dropped him from a scheduled performance on their show after he violated COVID-19 protocols when videos appeared on social media of him partying with fans went viral online. He was later invited back on the show in December, where he appeared in one of their episodes making fun of himself. Number 11, Spade Cooley. Spade Cooley was one of the biggest names in Western swing in the 1940s and 50s. While he can be remembered for some of his great hits, he is mostly remembered today for the crime he committed, the murder of his wife, Ella May. Ella was Cooley's second wife, and she was a backup singer in his band before they fell in love and decided to get married in 1945. Unfortunately for the duo, they did not live happily ever after, with Spade and Ella suspecting each other of cheating. People also reported that Cooley was an angry and possessive man who often threatened to kill Ella if she ever tried to leave their marriage. He retired from music in 1960, and that was when his reliance on hard substances began to increase. In 1961, Ella confided in a friend, informing her of an affair that she had with singer and actor Roy Rogers. She also told her friend that she had asked Cooley for a divorce and requested custody of their 3 children. However, it seemed that Cooley was not in favor of this happening at all. Just days later, he murdered her, and daughter Melody watched it all happen. The traumatized child would later testify to the jury that she saw him commit the crime. Cooley was sentenced to life in prison, putting an end to his country music dreams. However, a court planned to grant him parole in 1970 due to his failing health. In 1969, he received a 72-hour furlough to play a benefit concert and suffered a fatal heart attack backstage after his performance. Number 12, Casey Musgraves. When Casey Musgraves released Follow Your Arrow in 2013, she didn't expect it to emerge as one of country's most controversial singles, but it did. The song quickly generated discourse within the country music community when it was released in October 2013. Musgraves, who was 25 years old when the song came out, received backlash for the song's references to same-gender love and affinity for the LGBTQIA+ community and recreational marijuana use. While queer people may have legal rights to choose their sexuality, a lot of people still find it disturbing and would rather avoid the topic, especially in the country music industry. Singer and songwriter co-wrote the track with Brandy Clark and record producer Shane McAnally. It was met with a lot of hell no's. It was met with a lot of opposition, Musgraves told a crowd in 2024. They said, "You're gonna go down in flames if you do this." And I was like, well, at least I'll be going down in flames for something I believe in. At least it was my true self. Oh my gosh, it was so controversial, Musgraves told The Hollywood Reporter of the song in an interview for their May 2025 issue. The song ultimately failed, and it was banned by country radio. But in an interview, she said, "I would never trade that for the love and the people it brought to my world. I'm not going to present a watered-down version of myself to be accepted." Number 13, Ferlin Husky. Ferlin Husky, who died aged 85, was a country singer and songwriter. He captured country music lovers with his good looks and energetic showmanship. Throughout his music career, Ferlin sold more than 20 million albums in a career spanning 7 decades. He also developed a slapstick alter ego called Simon Crumb, expressing his talent for mimicry, which he often used to impersonate other artists. With his resonant voice and good looks, he was one of the most versatile entertainers to emerge from the country music scene. He was a singer, songwriter, guitarist, actor, and even a comedian whose impersonations ranged from Bing Crosby to Johnny Cash. In 1955, Husky moved to Nashville, where he finally secured a membership in the Grand Ole Opry, which was broadcast on NBC. He was expelled, however, after his second version of Gone crossed over into the American pop charts. That version was not country enough, and they felt he had no respect for the genre of music he was labeled with. In retaliation, Husky decided to join the rival CBS network's show, Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts. The move did launch a brief film career, though, which began with Husky playing himself alongside Little Richard and Chuck Berry in the 1957 film Mr. Rock and Roll. However, health challenges, especially regarding his heart, slowed him down, and for a while, it seemed that the legend had faded into the background. But in 2010, he was finally inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. He died at his home due to a heart problem, which was not unexpected given his history of heart problems and related ailments. Number 14, Charlie Rich. Charlie Rich, the soulful country music singer they called the Silver Fox, had been voted Entertainer of the Year by the Country Music Association of America 1 year earlier, and thus was chosen to announce that year's winner of the CMA's greatest honor at the televised 1975 show. He opened the envelope, appeared to read the name on the slip of paper, and instead of announcing it, Rich decided to take an extreme step. Why he decided to do this, we still do not know, but he reached into his pocket, took out a cigarette lighter, and set the slip on fire. While the paper burned, he finally announced that the winner was my friend, Mr. John Denver. Denver was only available to accept the awards via satellite link, so he made his acceptance speech without knowing about Rich's gesture. The audience was horrified, and many country music fans, especially John Denver fans, were furious. Charlie Rich was blacklisted from the Country Music Association Awards show for the rest of his career. His popularity crashed and his fan base destroyed from that moment until the end of his career in 1992. Rich had only one more hit in those years, though a couple of songs reached number 3 on the country charts. By any standard, his career after burning that piece of paper with John Denver's name was greatly diminished. Denver, universally regarded as a nice guy, was seen as the victim of a jerk. The "my friend" seemed like a particularly nasty touch. What was going on here? The assumption was that Rich was taking a stand for country traditionalists against pop music, turf invaders like Denver and Olivia Newton-John, who had won the Most Promising Female Vocalist Award in 1972. He felt Denver wasn't country enough. Rich made the strategic decision neither to apologize to his friend nor anyone else, and never felt the need to explain what was going on in his head at that moment. The singer was drunk when he took the stage, and his son, among others, blamed alcohol. Then his end came, and not in a pleasant way. Charlie Rich and his wife were driving to Florida for a vacation after seeing their son Alan perform with Freddie Fender at Lady Luck Casino in Natchez, Mississippi, when he experienced a bout of severe coughing. After consulting a doctor in St. Francisville, Louisiana, and receiving antibiotics, they continued their journey, believing it to be nothing serious. They stopped for the night in a motel in Hammond, Louisiana, where Rich died in his sleep on the 25th of July at age 62. The cause of death was a pulmonary embolism. He was buried in the Memorial Park Cemetery in Memphis, Tennessee. Number 15, Linda Martell. A pioneering force hailed as the unsung hero of the genre, Linda Martell was the first commercially successful black female artist in country music. Martell had the highest peaking single on the Billboard Hot Country Singles chart at the young age of 22 with her song Color Him Father. She was the first most successful black female country artist in the history of the genre in 1969, until Beyoncé's Texas Hold'em debuted at number 1 on February 21st, 2024. Martell also holds the record as the first black woman to debut on the Grand Ole Opry stage. From humble beginnings in her home state of South Carolina, Martell began performing with her family before being discovered as a solo act on Charleston Air Force Base. She moved to Nashville in 1969 and released her top 25 charting debut single the same year. This preceded her first and only album, Color Me Country. Color Me Country climbed to the top 40 on the Billboard Top Country Album chart, featuring 3 charting singles, and received praise from Billboard for its authenticity. The album earned her bookings on Hee Haw and package shows with Waylon Jennings and Hank Snow, as well as the first of 12 total appearances on the Grand Ole Opry. Though the album was deemed a success, Martell's talent and tenacity still faced racism, by audiences shouting racial slurs and hateful words at nearly every live show. It was a constant reminder that, as Rolling Stone recounts, she was a black woman, singing in a genre dominated by white acts. And at that time in Nashville, much of the industry was run by corrupt white men. With her final single, Bad Case of the Blues, not doing well in the charts, she found herself shelved by her label and essentially blacklisted by The Town, resulting in her eventual, emotional, and devastating departure from country music and Nashville in 1974. What are your thoughts on the artist and the reasons for their songs being blacklisted? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe.